In the last lesson we looked at selecting objects and what the key qualities that a grade 9 student would demonstrate, and one of the key points that came out was that they practice. Today's lesson is about what that actually means, and the key phrase that will come out from here is purposeful practice. So that starts with what you select to do. So what are you going to practice on? So if you're a footballer, just having a kick about in the park isn't going to turn you into a professional player. It's working on those things that you need to do to get better. So it would be your skills. If you think about David Beckham, who was an absolutely fantastic player for England and one of the best passers of the ball in the world, and would score amazing goals from distance and crossing. He got there by just practicing crossing and passing and kicking the ball over and over and over again until it became something that he just did naturally. So this is the sort of thing that you need to be doing today. So going back to our stick and selecting, we look at the stick, the famous stick from last time. Really poor choice. If you just went out and did this, that's no good. Wouldn't do that. There's nothing to be working on. That's like having a kick about in the park. It doesn't really, might be a bit of fun. You can get it over in 5 minutes, but it does nothing to get you your grade. Same with this one. Went out today and got that. That's a really bad choice. However, if I took this stick and I just looked at the end of it, and it literally was on the end, I've got something that's slightly more interesting. And we talk about the idea of qualities. What is the quality of something that you're looking at? What's the quality of the object? So if I look at this, it has a quality to it because I can use that, and if I draw it in the right way for the right purpose, it can add to my artwork. So the quality of this is the way in which these items join together. So I'd be looking, if I'm purposely drawing and practicing this, I'd be looking specifically at how these bits of the stick, these three areas, join to the stem. How do they do that? What's the angle? What's the tone that creates that? How can I position it so that it creates depth by overlapping it? So that's probably a good choice for me today because I can do it quite effectively. It would fit into the idea of this cave type thing because it's got that sort of bone-like kind of quality to it. Again, I've used the word quality, it's bone-like. So that's the sort of thing that would fit with what I intend to put into my artwork. So your task for today is to once again choose an object, but be very selective on what kind of object you're choosing and what you're going to do with it. So the key words and phrases for today are purposeful practice and correct selection. So what I'm doing here now is I'm just zooming directly into that area, and I'm not going to make it darker in the book so that you can see it, so there won't be much that you probably can see, but I'm just drawing this area here, just that structure. And what I'm doing is I'm mapping it in really lightly with my pencil. Taking a bit of time to make sure it's sharp. I've got made sure that the pencil's not too short. This one, as I pointed out before, it's too short. I can't hold my hand properly. So being prepared, and again this is part of the selection, is choosing the tools, the right tool for the right job, and making sure that it is prepared so that it's sharp. So if I was cutting a piece of wood and it was a saw or a knife, I'd make sure that my tool was sharp. And it's exactly the same when I'm drawing. If I want detail and I want that quality, I need to make sure that the pencil is sharp and it's a well chosen pencil as well. So it's the right kind of darkness, etc. So it will be how hard or soft the pencil is. So all I'm doing is very carefully just feeling out the details, and I'm looking at the object, that's this, a little bit more than I am drawing. So that's another key thing, is look at what you're trying to record, that's in this case drawing, more than you look at what you're drawing. So you're almost at times drawing without even looking at the paper because you're that close and into the object. The other thing I would also be doing, if I was doing this really seriously, is I would not be talking. That's because it switches on the wrong side of the brain if you talk. Which is why in class we say, don't talk, concentrate. Even though I talk a lot, and I'm talking far too much now. But now I'm just eking out that shape. And the other good thing about it is that it won't take me too long to do, because I'm trying to get that bone-like quality, and that means I need to focus on just that small area, and it's a fairly simple shape, and that means I can spend just that small amount of time getting things right. Now, if I use this for my final piece, I don't really like the word final piece, because there isn't actually ever a real final piece for work, for art, or anything else really, for that matter. It's always something else. But our final piece, if I was doing it for that, I'd have to do it again, yes, that's right. But this is like a bit like the driving test. You're telling an instructor your intentions, so you're passing a test. A lot of artists that I know never use sketchbooks. They just get on and do it. But that's because they're past that test and they don't need to, demonstrate or do it. I'm not saying it's always a good idea. It's a bit like the driving, you get into bad habits. But anyway, that's the idea. And now what I'm doing is I'm beginning to develop tone. And you'll notice that I've got this slower way of talking, and that is because I am thinking only, hopefully, this is what I would be doing, only on the task at hand. So a lot of people say that art is very relaxing. In one sense it is, but in another way it isn't. It's a bit like meditation. People think that it's emptiness and meditation is peaceful. Yes, it is, but your mind is working really hard actually at focusing on only one thing. So this idea of clarity of thought. Emptiness is not, it's focusing on the task at hand, which might simply be just breathing, or in this case, recording what's in front of me. So this is what you should be doing. This is how to draw. It's simply a case of looking and practicing. I need a lot more practice because I know. Now the other thing as well is that I'm beginning to get bogged down in this area. So what can happen when you're focusing on something, you focus on so much, so in such detail, you forget to look at everything and see how it all balances. So that's almost a tip for life really, is that every now and again just have a look up and see where everything else is, because otherwise you can find that you've gone down a little bit of a hole that you didn't really intend to go down. But I'm fairly pleased with that now. That's quite a good general start. It fits in with the idea of the rest of the work. Hopefully you can see it. If not, I shall zoom in a little bit more so that you can perhaps see a little bit more of it. Yeah, it should be okay. So it's not particularly dark at the moment, but I would work on that. It overlaps that, that's okay. And it gives me space to now add some of the leaf studies in here and gradually build this page up. Okay, so that's your purposeful practice. That's what it looks like, and that's what you should be doing.